Hey, and welcome to Ascension with V, where we talk about spiritual awakening, ascension, and everything in between. I'm your host, Stashia Jeanette, aka V, and today we have a special guest who's about to take us on a journey with their unique experiences. Brett, take it away.
Hey everybody, I'm Lloyd. I am a carnivore. I'm also a medium, a channeler, an author, and a Reiki 3 practitioner. I thrive on being in service to others. I have an interesting story to share with regards to how I got into mediumship, etc. And I'm looking forward to bringing Orna, the being that I channel, out, and so that Stacey can ask a few questions and maybe share a message along the way. And I'm just really grateful for the opportunity to share my experience.
And I'm super grateful to have you here on the podcast to talk about these things. Speaking of your mediumship, how did you get into this? How did your journey start? What was it that led you into being like, there's something here with this mediumship? How do we get there?
I was raised Protestant. I later, as an adult, converted to Catholicism.
Okay.
And I was really sincere about Catholicism. There were some questions that I had that they didn't answer, but I just kind of let it go. And then my wife and I, in this early spring of 2023, saw the documentary called Ancient Apocalypse, narrated by Graham Hancock. And we started discovering things just weren't matching up with what the Bible was saying as far as age and how many thousands of years before the Bible was even written, certain things occurred. And then I started doing even more investigating after the series was completed. And I learned that, well, maybe we've been lied to about a lot more things than I was aware of. I knew I'd been lied to about what to eat. I knew I'd been lied to about medical marijuana. I knew I had been lied to about a number of things. And in my own experience, when I do the opposite of what mainstream health would suggest, the healthier I became.
Yes. Isn't that funny?
And so in the topper for me was all, then I discovered that, hey, how humans were created, isn't really what we were always taught. And that our past goes back much further than mainstream historians and mainstream archaeologists want to acknowledge. And I just came to the conclusion that I couldn't honestly go to Mass anymore. I always had questions like, okay, there's Cain and Abel, Cain and Abel story. There was Adam, Eve, Cain and Abel. Cain gets jealous of Abel, kills him. God throws him out of the garden, Eden, and the first thing Cain does when he leaves the garden is he gets a wife. Now, where did she come from?
Where'd she come from? How'd that happen?
Seriously, we're led to believe there's 4 human beings on the entire planet. And then suddenly one gets kicked out of the special place for killing somebody, and now they got access to a wife.
Right.
Magic. And the more I investigated, the more I just couldn't do it anymore. And I told my wife, I was like, I can't. I'm living a lie if I walk into that church again.
Right.
And after a couple of weeks not going to church, my wife and I realized, hey, we need a community.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know what to call what we were thinking and feeling yet. And I started doing a Google search. We live in Jacksonville, Florida. There's a big population. I thought there's surely got to be some place that we're looking for.
Right.
And this one name kept coming up in all my Google searches. It was called the Cosmic Church of Truth. And when I read that, I thought, man, that's just too far out there for me. No, that can't be it. But it kept showing up no matter what kind of words I put in, New Age church, spiritualist church, This kept showing up.
Yeah.
So I clicked on it They've got a Facebook page on, and I could see maybe we ought to go there.
Yeah.
My wife and I went and attended our first service at the end of May of 2023. And we knew as soon as we walked in the door, we had found our home. People greeted us, strangers coming up, giving us hugs, going, look, new energy. All right.
Right. Right.
We just thought at last to be in a place that we're comfortable in. We felt like we had come home. And on Friday nights, they have a circle class, mediumship class. And my wife and I were instantly drawn to that. And I knew going into it, I didn't know anything. I was a babe, a newbie babe.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I knew it was going to take a while. But after 6 weeks, I wasn't seeing or hearing anything. And my wife was. And I'm like, okay. I'd never got into meditation.
Oh,
Never
yeah.
done it before. But in the middle of June, I decided I was going to have to start learning how to meditate.
Mhm.
Started with 5-minute guided meditations, 10, 15, 20 minutes. Got to where I could meditate on my own and finally get in to the theta place, that wonderful, beautiful place that you could get to in meditation. And I decided for the class of August 4th, 2023, I decided I was going to treat that class like a meditation.
Oh,
Because what I was doing and my attitude otherwise, it wasn't
working. Right.
working at all.
Yeah.
Stashia, I'm sitting there 10 minutes into the class or so, and suddenly in my mind's eye on the right side, there was this golden ball of energy. And I instinctively, that's me. That's Brett. That's my energy. Wow, I'm finally seeing something. That's so cool.
Yes.
And then a moment later, there's this blue ball of energy on the left side of my mind's eye. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, what's that? That's
What's
not.
this? Yeah. What's this? Yeah.
And the teacher had always told us, whenever you see something, feel something, hear something that you don't understand or that you're uncertain of, bring it to the group. So I did. I brought it to the group. Hey, this is what's going on. And the teacher just says, that sounds like channeling might be in your future. And I remember thinking, no way.
Yeah. What?
Me?
What?
Me?
What?
Me? No way. What's somebody going to want to speak through my broken down old self for it? I knew about channelers because by this point we had a Gaia subscription.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And I was interested. I found them fascinating, but was it something that I thought, hey, I'd like to do that? No.
Right.
Was
Right.
it something I thought would ever be in my future? Of course not. I just put it aside immediately, and that's not going to happen. Well, 5 minutes or so later, a very talented young man came to me and said, Brett, standing on your left is a extraterrestrial with sapphire colored eyes. And they want you to know, if you're willing, they'll make a connection with you. My
Okay.
intuition literally jumped out of my stomach, screaming, say yes, do it, do it.
Yeah.
So I said yes. And I was immediately connected with a 10,000-year-old light energy being. Her name is Orna. She's on a mission from Source to assist with planet's ascension to the fifth dimension.
Yes.
And needless to say, my life has done an incredible 180 on so many things.
Yeah.
Because that was August 4th of 2023.
Okay.
By the second Saturday of November, I was able to successfully be a reader. Second Saturday, they have what they call a psychic fair.
Okay. Yeah.
And with a number of readers and a number of Reiki healers, and it's all to raise money to keep the church up.
Okay.
And November of 2023, I'm up there in the second table doing readings.
Yeah.
And it was like I was where I was always supposed to be.
Like home.
Exactly. And I didn't know this at the time. I practiced the carnivore lifestyle. That's why you see that eat meat shirt.
Yeah.
I suffered from mental illness for 40 years of my life.
Yeah.
Following this diet eliminated all of that for me. I say that because on the ride home from the church that night that Orna connected with me, I was just like, how do I convince my wife I haven't lost my mind again?
No, right. Yeah, immediately I was like, how do I tell her?
And, Orna's sharing information with me and I'm asking questions and I'm just trying to on by a thread because I'm like, this was not how I expected the ride home to be. I thought, me and my wife went there. I thought me and my wife would be the one coming back. But instead, it's me, my wife, and Orna.
Right. Right.
And my wife and I work at a print shop. I work there on Mondays only. I do the nastiest job they have, which I'm happy to do because it helps me make the car payment.
All right.
But as we're going out the door that morning, Orna says to me, I must speak to your wife on the way to work. And I'm like, oh, all right, this ought to be, it's going to happen. I don't know how it's going to, okay.
Right.
And so we're on the way, and I told my wife, I said, Orna wants to speak with you. Keep driving, but listen. And suddenly in my mind, the left corner of my mind's eye, I could see my wife. My bottom corner of my mind's eye, I could see the dashboard with my foot propped up on it. So I'm in the passenger side. And I hear her start talking, but it sounds like it's very, very far away.
Yeah.
And basically, she tells my wife that my wife can relax. This is all very real. Brett's going to make mistakes along the way, but he'll never make the same mistake twice. And I want you to know that your marriage is important to me as it is to you. There's not going to be any pressure put on your marriage through our connection. Have a beautiful day. Thank you. I will return at the appropriate time. And I'm like, I'm barely able to hear it, but I could hear every word. And I'm like, oh my God.
You're like, oh.
Finally, I got my vision back to normal. And I looked at my wife and I said, how was that for you? She said, that was very strange. I knew that wasn't you.
Yeah.
Knew it wasn't you. And it's like, strange for you, dear?
Strange.
Should have been where I was.
Right.
And literally, Orna has been downloading information into me almost every day since. I've got the world's greatest crash course in mediumship you could ever hope to have. My meditations extended in time. I can now meditate for up to an hour without any issue whatsoever, and it's always the most beautiful thing. I realized once I started doing readings, I'm a musician.
Okay.
See that guitar in the background?
That's
sage instrument. And I knew the first Saturday I did the psychic fair. I thought, this is so much more satisfying. I feel like I'm living my purpose.
Your purpose. Yes.
Well, I always loved performing. There was all the negativity that goes with the music business, with doing readings and giving people hope and being able to bring their loved ones from the other side forward to share information. It just doesn't get better than that for me.
Right. Right.
And that's how I got into mediumship. And I know I've still got many, many, many things to learn. That's why on my Reiki 3 certificate, it doesn't say master. It says Reiki 3 advanced practitioner, because I was not comfortable with the term master because I knew I still had so many more things to learn.
Right. And I think that's in general, like everyone still always has more to learn and grow. I don't think there's ever a point where people get to the point where they're like, oh, I know everything. Like, you know what I mean? I don't think that ever will be a thing. I feel strange about people who feel like they know everything. I've got it all figured out, and never. you know?
I agree completely. I've got a lot more to learn. I don't know exactly what it is yet, but I've learned after that blitzkrieg of information and being able to process it. Now I'm content to wait and let the universe bring it to me.
Bring it. Yes. Yes.
And I tried utilizing, looking for a mentor or something to help me along the way. And basically, my wife said, if I had a 10,000-year-old Arcturian in
Yeah.
mind, I think that's the person I'd go to for all my questions and all my. And I'm like, that's a good point.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
And so I've just been ridiculously blessed, incredibly grateful. At times, Stacey, it's just hard to put into words how beautiful it is. I can't imagine Orna not being there. The first thing we did was she explained to me, and through her study of humanity, she discovered that channelers really aren't paid any attention to until there's a book.
Man, you know what I'm saying? And then even beyond that, it feels like you either have to die in the physical for people to, for people
Mm-hmm.
to recognize what you've been doing, your gifts, your skills and abilities, or exactly that. It has to be some monumentous thing.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about the book, and tell me, number one, also, how did you know that you could trust what you were getting? How did you know you could trust yourself and the information that was coming enough to be able to do this?
One of the benefits of the carnivore lifestyle
Mm-hmm.
is it eliminates all the inflammation from your physiology.
Okay.
My brain operates as it was designed.
Yeah.
No brain fog.
Okay.
Clarity of thought is pristine.
Yeah.
And so I was able to recognize the realness of it all.
Yeah.
And that's what made it more challenging, was trying to put into human language things that aren't
No.
that easy. They don't
No human.
translate that
Yeah.
well. They just
Yeah. That,
don't.
that there's no tangible, physical, human way to really describe all the things that are. Yeah.
And I trusted Orna. Everything Orna has told me would come to pass has come to pass.
Okay.
She told me very, very early on, whatever is needed will be provided.
Yes. Yes.
And that is exactly what has happened.
Yeah.
And here's the book. Whoops, upside down. Way to go, Brett.
Okay. Give me the rundown of the book. Tell me the title. Where could
It's
people
called
get buy?
The Words of Orna.
Okay.
And it says very clearly on there, you can't really read it. You might be able to read it that way. It says channeled by Brett Lloyd. The only words I wrote were in the preface.
Okay.
And describing a bit of the night that Orna connected with me.
Okay.
But basically, the premise of the book is it's not earth-shakingly new. It's just a lot of information that people are familiar with, especially if you read the Law of One by Ra. Similar concepts. Love is the ultimate universal tool.
Yes.
And the planet will be able to ascend once love permeates the planet. And she talks about a lot of things about what death really is.
Right.
Spirit, the spirit realm, etc. Talks about the importance of families versus incomplete families as far as creating a strong social structure and things of that nature. Just a lot of it's common sense for mediums, etc. Those of us in the spiritual community, but a lot of it, I can't let my 86-year-old mother know about this because she would be very, very, very upset.
Right. And I hate that. I hate that that's a stigma, like a taboo thing. And honestly, I feel like that is what has held back humanity for so long. And it was designed that way.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? To keep the population asleep, stuck, to prevent this ascension from happening, where this became a very taboo subject purposely.
Absolutely. And it's because the manipulating energies that have
Yeah.
been in control of society for thousands of years,
Yep.
they know once the planet ascends to the fifth dimension, all their power is
It's
gone.
over.
It's game over for what they've been holding on to
Doing.
for so
Exactly.
long.
Exactly.
And that's why we were taught, why we were indoctrinated in the public school systems and whatnot. Only science, only science. Trust your intelligence above all else.
Yes.
Spirituality has no place here.
Yes.
You are not, if you're seeing something that none of us can see, it's because you need some medication.
At that. Brett, let's talk about that for a second. Let's talk about the effects of people being labeled as crazy for having spiritual gifts and abilities. I've said this a couple of times of saying there's a whole lot of people, I think, right now who really deserve an apology for being labeled as like crazy. Oh, they just have something wrong with them, when really what it was they were just spiritually gifted. And the big pharmaceutical companies wanting to throw pills down people, like kids. I mean, it was that way. Like, I was on a whole lot of medication for a long time because, I had spiritual gifts and abilities, right? And the goal of trying to suppress that so that people aren't able to know what's really happening, disconnected from their mind, body, and soul in every way, right? What do you feel like will eventually be the change that prevents the change that shifts us from this being the norm?
Well, I think people are waking up now in greater numbers. I know you see it as much as I do. Even the short time that I've been a part of the spiritual community, I can see people are coming in droves. People are waking up. They realize, I've been taking this pill for 15 years and it's done exactly the opposite of what it was supposed to do. I'm not any better. I'm sicker. I've gained an enormous amount of weight.
Yes.
Case in point, for me, that really was what happened. I got crazier. The more meds they gave me, the crazier I got. January of 2015, I weighed almost 300 pounds, was on 7 different psych meds.
Yep.
And I honestly didn't think I'd live out the year.
Yep. Yep.
A musician friend of mine said, "Have you ever thought of medical marijuana?" And, as a teenager, I tried it, had a bad experience with it.
And then you were like, I'm done.
Yeah, I can drink 29 times more beer and it's legal and I don't have to worry about this. And no, it just wasn't for me. And so at band practices or gigs, I would be the guy passing around. This wasn't for me, but I found out it treated my symptoms in 2015 much more successfully than all those medications that I took as prescribed for 23 years.
So how did you eventually get off of it?
Yeah, 2015. By the end of 2015, I was off all of the antipsychotics and antidepressants. By the end of 2016, I was off the Ativan for my anxiety, which I'd been on for 8.5 years. That was fun to come off of, let me tell you.
Oh, yeah.
And immediately after the day after I took my last eighth of a milligram of that crap, I woke up with vertigo that lasted for the next 3 months. And by the end of 2017, I was off the sleep meds.
Okay.
And I, with the exception of a couple of upper respiratory infections that I've had, I've not taken any pharmaceuticals at all since 2017.
Yeah.
Just don't need it anymore.
Yeah.
And as long as I eat this way, I never have to worry about my symptoms. It's been 6.5 years now that I've been eating only meat and drinking only water. My lab work is spectacular. I wake up with a smile on my face. I experience effortless daily happiness each and every day of my life. And that was before Orna showed up.
Right. Right.
Now, with what I experience through my daily meditation and whatnot, I mean, grateful to me is the best word I've got, but it seems inadequate.
Yeah. But do you feel like going, you wouldn't, do you feel like you wouldn't be where you're at now if you hadn't gone through the situation of being on the medicines and all the things? Do you feel like it made you better to have that experience? Or,
It made me better to have that experience for a number of reasons. One, I did an interview after I got well with Carnivore, and I thought
yeah,
maybe 25, 50 people would hear it,
yeah,
and it would be split evenly. I didn't have any great expectations, but I thought I need to do this once. And then I got a message on Instagram, a voice message from a 22-year-old male who said, "Brett, I want to thank you for doing that interview. Because of what you said, I no longer want to kill myself."
nah, yeah, and that's huge.
And okay, God, I'm not the brightest bulb in the box, but even I can get that message. I have to keep sharing my experience
Yeah,
because there's a gazillion people out there who had walked
been
similar
through.
paths.
Yes, yeah,
And it was interesting. My wife I did a lot of coaching sessions, just hundreds and hundreds of coaching sessions over the next 5 years. And my wife told me later, after we started going to the metaphysical church, she said, "Brett, you've been doing readings for years. You just didn't know it."
yes, exactly. Same.
Because same thing would happen. I didn't know it at the time. I thought that funny feeling in my head wasn't energy. I just thought it was me concentrating.
Yes, exactly, exactly.
And when I did my very first reading, 30 seconds in, so I'm like, I've done this before. This is exactly what I've done before.
Yes,
And life has never been the same. I hope I answered your question.
yes, you did. You
Okay,
did.
good deal.
Okay, so tell me about you feeling. Well, also, let's go back to the book. How
Hmm.
did you get the book published?
Again,
And
Orna,
how was that process?
Orna said, whatever is needed will be provided. A family started coming to the church,
Hmm.
and we connected. I did readings for most of them, and they have a autistic child, 17. They might have turned 18 now. Anyway, he was nonverbal, although recently in the past few months, he's actually was able to tell his parents he loved them for the first time, which was beautiful.
Nice.
And anyway, we just all connected. We resonated with one another. But pardon me, my
No,
mind just went. What was that
that's
point
me.
I was trying
That's me constant. That's me constantly, Brad. I'm like, it's fine.
to? When you get older, it's when you're in your 60s. I'm 63, and the rest of my body is like in great shape. My brain's just like, we we forget things now and then. Like I get up to go to the other room, and I'm like, what did I come
Why
in
am
here
I
for?
here? Yeah. What am I doing? Yeah.
So refresh. Tell me what I was talking about before I lost the train of thought.
You were talking about the nonverbal,
Yeah,
um,
and
and then
go
you
ahead.
being a family came into the church, and
Yeah,
whatever was needed would be provided. I was at.
and it just so happens of that family, the mother
Mhm.
is a book editor.
Snap.
How could that? I'm telling you, there are no
Right.
accidents. There are no
Right.
coincidences. This
No,
just
never. Never.
and so connected with her, and I worked with the son a lot. We could do 3 episodes just on the experience with that. And this young man is so beautiful on the inside. I cry every time I think about it because it's just incredible. Have you ever met somebody that has angelic DNA?
Absolutely. Yes.
This was one such.
Yes.
One of the ladies that does readings at our church, she sees auras very
Mm-hmm.
clearly.
Yeah.
And she didn't have a sitter when they sat down. The father, the young man, and the mother all sat down together. And I just let Orna examine him, and then I just kept feeding him energy. And the lady watching her, I could see her out of the corner of my eye, and her eyes were getting like this big around. And she said, Brett, she told me later, there was an angel hovering over that young, and you all were bathed in this beautiful golden light. I've
Yeah.
never seen anything like that before.
Yeah.
That's the kind of experiences I'm having. That's what makes it, to me, that is the greatest thing, to be of service to others.
Absolutely.
There's just nothing like it.
Right.
I hope
What
that answers your question.
what does that mean when you say that you were just letting Aura talk through you and you were just feeding him energy? What is that?
Orna was examining him to see exactly what had caused the autism.
So how is that process? Like, what is that like?
Well, for me, I don't see or feel that when she's doing that. That's something she does independent of me.
Okay.
She tells me this is what I'm going to go do, and then she goes and does it.
Okay.
For me, I was just focused on reading his energy, which was enormous,
Okay.
trying to keep him in a positive state of mind. That was my
Being
whole focus.
like the Reiki.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, this was before I was certified in Reiki. I was just sending my energy,
Okay.
and it just worked out beautifully, because the young man sat there, and he very rarely smiled, but he had a smile on his face almost the whole 25 minutes that we were working together there. And
Right.
I've been down to their house a number of times, and I've worked with him some more. And part of my morning meditation routine is to send energy to people I know who need it. And of course, he gets a dose every morning. I mean, if you'd have told me this time 2 years ago I'd be doing these kinds of things, I'd be like, what are you smoking? And
What? Yeah. What kind of?
do you have any left to share?
Yeah, I have some because I need that. Whatever you're on, I want some.
Exactly. I'm constantly pinching myself going, this is really not a dream. This is all very real, and it's all continuing to happen. I've got another autistic young man that I send energy to that lives many states away from here in the Northeast,
Okay.
who is a classic case of what we were talking about before. This young man, gifted beyond words.
Yeah.
But when he started telling psychologists and then psychiatrists, yes, I see my grandmother right over there. They
No.
put the label on him and started feeding the meds to him.
This is this is what I'm saying. And I'm not saying that like every single case of this isn't that like there's not something, because but like I feel like a large percentage of the time it's literally just that we are gifted beings. We have spiritual gifts, and as soon as it's like the Matrix movie. It's like as soon as they realize like, oh, they're no longer in the Matrix, immediately they're like, get them.
Exactly. And
That sucks.
I well, I have to be careful here not to break confidentiality.
Right.
Let's just say, after Orna and I heard about this young man's plight, we immediately, Orna's like, okay, there's things we can do. This is your challenge, Brett. You have to come up with a plan.
Right.
And so we send this young man Reiki. I got permission from the mother to speak to his higher self.
Okay.
The medication effectiveness is being reduced 5% a week. Eventually, when he consumes that medicine, it will be inert. It will have no impact. Working with the higher self, the young man has learned not to draw attention to himself. He's in a group home environment. We don't want the staff, because I worked in a group home many thousands of years ago when I had hair and better waistline. And I know, as long as the young man's quiet and doesn't cause a problem, no one's going to investigate further.
Right.
And his higher self's also working with him, and his mother's been working with him over the phone to say, don't when you see Aunt so and so or your grandmother so and so, you can't let these people know, or they're going to put more medicines on you, or they're going to change it to something worse.
Exactly.
So, how do you walk away from that? You can't.
It it's hard. I mean, again, you and I both have had our own experiences with that, and I mean, mine was similar. It's like God Source Universe very slowly it pulled me off of the medications that I was on. Like it's kind of like I guess what a doctor would do to what do they call you
Titrate.
that and then just teeter you off the medicine slowly. It was like that, but I knew internally within myself that this was the process that was happening. And I didn't tell any of my doctors, right? Because immediately that's the first thing they do. Oh, why do you want to come off the medicine? And I even said it. I said it multiple times to a couple of doctors. Hey, do you think it would be beneficial for me to come off of maybe this, and this and see if something gets better? Like, can we try that? Why would you want to do that? Why can we just try and figure out, let's see if this works. They never want to take you off anything because a patient cured is a customer loss.
Exactly. 100% agree.
That's
That makes me so angry
and that
because, you know, like the doctor I had for like 15 years, he was a good man.
yeah,
He was genuinely trying to figure out what to do for me.
right,
And science just wasn't giving me answers.
right.
Now, a few years ago, after I got well with the diet, I reached out. My wife and I had moved to Jacksonville, Florida, where we're at now. And I'd reached out to him to let him know I'd gotten better. And then I told him how. And I hoped he investigated further because I know he's had to have other patients come across his path that were in similar situations. The problem wasn't medicine, it was what they were eating.
Right.
And as long as I don't eat sugar ever again or carbs ever again, not naturally found in meat, I don't ever have to worry about any of that ever coming back to me. I've been symptom free now for over 6.5 years. I haven't had a headache since July of 2018. Can you imagine that? I couldn't even imagine that.
Right.
But it's where I think spiritualism in time, people are starting to awaken to the fact. If this was, why are we just managing symptoms?
You know what I'm saying? And I have said that so many times. How come why is nobody questioning the fact of like, can we just fix the issue? Can we just cure it? There is nothing that is known to man right now that does not have a cure. Literally, there is not one thing, and they know it. It's just been a whole thing of when so much money is lost when people take things that just simply cure the symptoms, that cure the issue. You're no longer, doctors aren't getting paid. There's no more medicine getting pushed. There's no more people taking Y and Z, getting refills. There's no more copay money coming in. The whole thing is literally just to keep you in the cycle of get your refills and do this and do that. Keep coming back. Oh, here's another Band-Aid. Oh, this is another symptom. Here's some more pills.
And keep eating the garbage that's causing it in the first place.
Man, and have you been outside of America? Like have you been to Europe ever?
No, I haven't, but I know people who live there.
Yeah.
And what I have learned about the difference in the food over there, it's insane. They don't have life enhancers and all that glutamate garbage. It's just fresh freaking food.
It's so nice. Literally, it's so nice. And when you come back here, it's a shock. Like, you just look around and you can clearly see why people are so obese, why people are so unhealthy. And then you flip back again to going to Europe and all the different places, and they're all very, very thin, very athletic, very healthy, very happy, and you think, what's the difference? It's the food.
Absolutely. Absolutely it is.
It is the food. Also, a lot of things that are considered like scheduled drugs or federally regulated drugs, controlled substances here, a lot of places are not. Like it's strange the stark comparison between the way things are here compared to everywhere else in the world.
Well, in the carnivore community, we call the health system the disease management system
Yeah,
because it's never about healing
healing.
somebody. It's about managing symptoms,
Right,
cradle to grave, if
right,
possible, because
right,
that keeps the sick person feeding into the revenue stream.
right.
It's not just doctors and pharma, it's the labs doing the blood, processing the blood work. All of that
Yes.
is tied into the same falsely based system.
Yeah.
It's all a lie.
Yeah.
And now what I've learned, and you've learned it too, I have no doubt, we can literally cure anything that's wrong with us
Yeah.
ourselves.
Exactly. Yeah.
But they don't want that information getting out
No.
because that threatens them directly.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm so grateful I can make a presentation on that now without sounding like a lunatic
Yeah.
because I've
Because
lived it. I've lived it.
exactly same. You and I are excellent examples of exactly this. I found a doctor recently who said this to me that I'm in you as well, a rare position where we've been on both ends of the spectrum, the extremes of being on all the medications,
Mhm.
right? And then now being on essentially nothing. He was like, that's a position that most people are never in because usually once you go through that threshold of all the medicines and drugs, you don't get off of it. You die that way.
Exactly. It die prematurely.
Absolutely that. But being on the end of, okay, we've done all this and now getting off of and essentially having this rebirth of being in your divine state now, most people don't don't have that experience, but you and I are able to very clearly and with the paper trail to prove it,
Mm-hmm.
speak on and show and talk about the things that we have gone through with exactly the proof.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we went through this and this was not it. This is not the way, and you should absolutely. I wonder if now you got me thinking about you saying that you called your doctor, right, and told him, hey, I got well. There's a thing that doctors now also are having to choose. This, speaking of like the split that has happened,
Mm-hmm.
doctors also, or the healthcare system is having to choose whether or not they're going to be in the I want to heal my patients lane and try to push holistic things. Let's change your diet. Let's exercise more. Let's meditate. Let's connect the mind, body, soul. Let's try to do these holistic approaches,
Mm-hmm.
right? Get you back on track first, right? Or it's we're just here to push big pharmaceutical. Here's some pills.
I know a couple of physicians who got sick and tired of seeing their patients becoming more ill as they
Work.
followed the standard of care that they
Yes.
were legitimately required by law to follow.
Yes.
That's another thing that really pisses me off.
That.
A great book I would encourage people to, if you're interested in this, it's resonating with you, what we're talking about. There's a book by a doctor named Ken Berry. It's
Okay.
called Lies My Doctor Told Me.
Ooh.
I recommend that to everybody
Okay.
because it will explain many things that we don't have time to get into right now. But
All right.
it's incredibly powerful and it will wake you up in ways you didn't anticipate. And these doctors like Ken Berry and whatnot, they've stepped away. They're not seeing 50 patients a day.
Okay.
They're not spending 6 to 7 minutes and then writing out a new prescription.
Yep.
Instead, they're developed what's called this concierge service where you get 30 to 45 minutes with your doctor every
Okay.
appointment. And they offer other things, holistic things, groups to therapy type kind of stuff only minus the psychology,
Okay.
just to give people a chance to share their experience on their healing journey.
Okay.
And when you get different people together like that, everybody learns different things that they pick up from somebody else.
Yes, like puzzle pieces.
It's extremely therapeutic. People get better.
Mm-hmm.
They come off all their meds.
Mm-hmm.
Their blood levels are pristine.
Yeah.
They're no longer obese. They
Yeah.
get their life back, and they're like a completely transformed human being.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as somebody who's undergone a transformation like that, I wish everybody could experience it. I wish everybody within the sound of my voice. Now, granted, there are some medications for certain situations. I'm not
Right.
saying no to all meds. That's
Right.
correct.
Right.
But in
No.
certain situations, certain medicines are
Are needed.
exactly.
Yes.
But if you've been going to the same doctor for 15, 20 years and you've only gotten worse,
Right.
it's time to make a change.
Exactly. And that's what happened with me. I mean, it just was just consistently, I mean, just plummeting. And then the doctors were sitting by. Now, listen, I'm not trying, but all I can go off of is just what it looked like. To me, what it looked like is y'all are just sitting here watching me die and you're here for it. You're compliant with it. You're with it. You're on board that train for it because they were watching my blood levels tank and nobody was saying anything. And eventually I had to step in and say, what, Kim, does nobody see these? Like, I mean, I had neutropenia. Like my white count was shot. It was like supposed to be, I think the minimum of 3,000. It was at like 600.
Oh my.
And every time, and I saw it, and I waited to see. So you guys not gonna say anything? And even when I mentioned it, they just looked at me like, "Oh, your blood work is fine. Is it though? Let's take another look.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take another look." And only then were they like, "Oh, and that's when I came off of this biologic that I was taking for Crohn's disease, and it was suppressing my white count or whatever it was. In general, I was like, I'm no longer taking this because it's just making me worse, and it again is just really, really, you saw it, you knew what was happening, and they just chose to, I don't know.
Exactly. I have to be careful not to get too focused on all that issue because I can lose track of where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
One of the greatest things that Orna has taught me is to control my thoughts.
Yes.
Whereas from the majority of my life, I was in a negative thought loop all the time.
Right.
And once you're out of that, you don't
Yes.
ever want to go back into it.
Ever.
And so now I'm in a positive mindset.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
the difference is profound. It's so much better. It's so beautiful. And when you start seeing light, whereas before you only saw darkness.
Yeah.
It
is. I love it here.
Yeah. And, I hear people talking about, after this incarnation, I'm never coming back. And I'm like, are you serious? Now that I'm well,
Absolutely.
life is amazing.
Great.
It
It's
is
great.
truly amazing.
Right.
And the opportunities to help other people are just everywhere. When I got my Reiki certifications and whatnot, I thought, okay, now how am I going to seek out patients and clients, etc. They just started coming to me out of the woodwork. I wasn't advertising anything. Somebody would start talking about their health situation, and I would hear it, and I'm like, well, I can't just let that go by and not offer my assistance.
Do you feel like there's this, speaking on that, do you feel like there's this thing of energetic marketing in New Earth? Do you feel like that's actually a thing? Because that's something that I've said where people talk about, oh, I need to buy business promotions and I need to promote this and promote that. But I've always said that like the people who need you will find you.
Exactly. I agree completely. I went from, after I got my Reiki 3 certification, I was like thinking, okay, how am I going to do this? And then people started uh, just crossing my path in life, and I would hear them articulating how unhappy they were with their doctor. They were sick and tired of being sick and tired, and just like, well, I think I might be able to help you out if you're willing to give me the chance.
Yeah.
And there are now 4 or 5 humans that I interact with their higher self every morning,
Hmm.
and to see what their progress is like, and send them Reiki every morning. I've also got this little side trip. There's a gentleman named Freddie Silva. He's been on Gaia a number of times. He was just on a recent episode of Open Minds. He's an author. He's written one book I would encourage everybody in the metaphysical community to get and read and put into practice, is temple making.
Okay.
You can actually build your own temple in your own space, whether you live in an apartment or a condo or you've got a yard, etc. We now have an outdoor temple activated. The energy's on 24/7.
Hmm.
In fact, some of the backwash from it is hitting me on this side because it's only like 25 feet in that direction. And then we've got one indoors in the living room. The energy is always flowing
Yeah.
24/7.
Yeah.
Being able to meditate in that and to send energy, to send temple energy to people
Right.
for whatever their illness is. One lady fell and broke her arm. So, I've been sending her energy to help with the healing of her arm. There's opportunities everywhere. It doesn't
Right.
have to be somebody knocking on your door saying, I heard you fix sick people. Could you help me? It's not it's not what's happening for me. It's just people keep crossing my path, or at
Yeah,
church
exactly.
I'll hear a conversation and I'm like, I think I know a way to help you. And especially since the 25th of August, I introduced Orna to the congregation at our church. You can actually go see the video of that at the Cosmic Church of Truth Facebook page. Every talk that's ever given there, they record it.
Okay.
And it's there in perpetuity. And now the people know Orna's around and whatnot. I'm starting to get, well, what's Orna say about this kind of illness or whatnot? And
Yeah.
Orna says, well, you can heal yourself, or you can let Brett help you heal yourself.
Right.
Because people don't understand,
They
with
can.
Reiki, I'm not healing anybody. I'm just
Right.
providing the energy.
Right.
And then the individual's healing themselves.
Correct. Right.
What a beautiful system.
It is. And it's a beautiful gift to have, to be able to do that, to be able to be in that position to be a vessel to lend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And as Orna said, everything that is needed will be provided, and it continues to be provided.
Always. Always.
And life has never been so beautiful.
I love that for you, Brett.
Thank you. Thank you.
I love it.
I'm a very fortunate man. I really am grateful. I know this is just the beginning.
Of course it is. You have a lot left to give and do and think about, honestly.
And the great thing about mediumship, as long as your cognitive skills never deteriorate, there's no age limit.
Right, exactly.
As a musician, eventually my fingers were going to slow down.
There's an age limit on the fingers.
Yeah, exactly. Eventually, and I get a lot of grief over my diet. Your cardiologists are going to love you. No, they're not, because they never see me. I never need to go to one. I never need to go to one.
Right.
And besides, if I fall over, if my heart says I'm retiring tomorrow morning, I'm
Right.
fine with that, because I've got to go out on happy terms.
Living your divine purpose.
Exactly. And there's nothing greater than that.
Yeah.
There's no amount of money. There's no power. Nothing. There's nothing more valuable.
Right. Well, Brett, before you go, is there anything that you or Orna wants to say or give a message to me or to the audience?
Well, I can tell you what Orna would like for everybody to know, or would you like to hear straight from Orna?
If Orna wants to talk.
Won't be very long, but we'll bring her out. Just give me a moment. Hey, Lloyd.
Hey, Orna.
It's a pleasure to speak with you this morning. Stashia.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
I appreciate you and having this conversation that people need to be aware of.
Okay.
My message today is for everyone who's watching and listening to this to understand love is truly a universal tool.
Absolutely.
Many humans are captured by what Brett would term the rat race.
Yes.
Humans are not. They're spiritual beings having a human experience. And it's important to separate yourself from the rat race and focus on using love to lead your life, to guide you forward, to share with your loved ones, your spouse, your children, your extended family, your friends, acquaintances, people who cross your path. Share love, unconditional love that requires nothing in return. Love is truly the ultimate universal tool. When a perplexing problem arises, ask yourself, what would love do? How could I utilize love to remedy this situation? You'd be amazed at what's possible. It's been a pleasure sharing this with you. I hope in the future we can gather, Stashia, and have a longer conversation.
Yes.
Thank you for your time this morning. I will step back and let Brett come forward.
Okay. Thank you for sharing.
Okay. Back.
That was awesome.
Did you feel her?
I could, and I saw it. I actually saw the camera change.
Awesome. That's wonderful. I love it when people feel her. And to me, that's everything. Because once you feel her love, how do you turn away from the idea of using love?
Right. Right. Exactly.
And when I channeled her, that's the cherry on top, if you will. It really is, because I don't hear what she's saying. I'll have to go back and listen to this, or she'll tell me what she said later afterwards.
Yeah.
Because I don't hear it.
Right.
And in the beginning, the first few times interviews, I channeled her. I was like a little nervous. I wonder what she's telling me.
Right. What's she saying? What's going on out there?
But the responses on, the look on people's faces after I come out of the trance is always a great indication that they're very pleased and happy and experiencing a level of joy for me in her presence for a while. It's the greatest thing. There's nothing better than that. It really isn't.
Thank you so much, Brett, for sharing, Orna, for coming on the podcast, for sharing your book, all the things. Thank you for being here and having this conversation with us and sharing your experiences.
I thank you for the opportunity, and I know this is not the last conversation you and I are going to have.
No, not at all.
Looking forward to the next one.
Yes, sir. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you so much, Stacey. It's been a pleasure.
You as well.
Bye-bye.
Bye.